But welcome everyone. My name's Laura Manley. I am the administrative specialist here at EPN. We'll talk about titles in a little bit. And we're happy to welcome you to this workshop featuring lay administrative staff from across the Episcopal Church and associated organizations and seminaries. And everyone here is going to be kind of sharing their role of what do they do in their organization or parish, and what wisdom have they gained along the way. Excuse me, I am getting over a cold, so my brain's a little fuzzy right now, and I might have to mute to cough, so excuse me. So a couple procedural items before we get started. So first, our session's being recorded, so you will receive an email with a link to that recording and any additional materials that our panelists provide once it posts to our workshop library, usually within 48 hours. Also, the Q&A function is disabled for all of our workshops, so please enter your questions in the chat. The panel will answer them either as we go along or at the end as time permits, and there'll be a transcript of the chat as well alongside the recording in our library. So thank you all again for being here, and we will get started. So the first thing I'd like to do is, because we are talking about administration and administrative staff, I want to have the panel introduce themselves. And one of the other things I'd like them to do is to share their title. And we'll talk kind of a little bit more. We'll ask them to expand on that too. Like, what are the basic requirements or jobs that you have under that umbrella of the title that you have? So, Meg, could you go first for us, please? Introduce yourself.
Okay, sure, Mom. So my name is Meg Griffin. My title is the Executive Assistant. I work at the Episcopal Preaching Foundation, a nonprofit organization that enhances sermons around the Episcopal Church, including some in Europe. We actually do have some in Europe in one of our programs. So yay for that. So my job daily is daily administration, like calendar management and travel arrangements for our one executive director. Plus, I also have administration for our two part-time program directors for our two programs. And then I also do a lot of event coordinating. So I do a lot of, pretty much I'm that person behind that green curtain, pay no attention to the person behind the curtain. That's me. I do the head counts, anything event-wise. I make sure everything's all smooth with everything as well too. That is pretty much and that's the reason why they call me the executive assistant, because I help pretty much all the leads that are in the Episcopal Preaching Foundation. So I think I'm done with my little spiel. I'm going to call on my colleague Michael, if you like to come up next.
Certainly. My name is Michael Kostial. I'm the parish administrator at Grace Episcopal Church in Madison, New Jersey. My primary responsibility, is to put it in a nutshell, is I keep the doors open, the lights on, and I make sure that everybody else that works with or for the church has all of the tools and resources they need to do their job. And that's about it. And I will call on Lesley Wilder.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Lesley Wilder. I'm Chief of Staff in the President's Office at Seminary of the Southwest in Austin, Texas. I'm the first in this role here at the institution, so somewhat of a trailblazer. I've been the Chief of Staff since 2016. Before that, I was Executive Assistant in the President's Office, but originally I started in 2012 as Administrative Assistant in the Registrar's Office. So I've been at this institution for a long time. I've been doing this work for a long time. I'm really excited about it. And yeah, so primary responsibilities. So I have the EA hat, which is the administrative support for the president, and an extension to as well with the president's cabinet, calendaring, calendar management, visitors, that type of thing. In my role as chief, it's mostly managing board relations, strategizing with the president on internal relationships and departments, and as well as external donors and friends, I like to say I could keep going, but I'm not gonna. I'll just say as executive assistant, I support the president, and as chief of staff, I represent the president. So I'm happy to expand on that with questions. And last but not least, Haley.
Thanks. My name is Haley Townsend Trujillo. I am the executive assistant to Bishop Suffragan K. Ryan here in the Diocese of Texas. The way that the Diocese of Texas kind of administrative responsibilities are divvied up, we have different regions of oversight of our various bishops in the diocese. And so Bishop Ryan oversees the West region and is also our executive for ministry, which is important context to help understand some of my responsibilities in my particular role. So like some of the other executive assistant folks have mentioned, calendaring, travel arrangements, and that kind of thing is kind of some of the like meat and potatoes of my job responsibilities. And then some of the other things that I help support Bishop Ryan in her work include some of the boards that she oversees, including Seminary of the Southwest. And when I say oversees, I mean chairs. And then we also do some internal programming, like additional formation for our newest clergy, both like brand new curates, newly ordained folks, and also folks who are new to our diocese. We provide them with some additional learning and things like that. So there's a lot of event management, contract execution, registrations, all those kind of good things.
Great, thank you all very much. And just for reference, I am, as I said, the administrative specialist here at EPN. We've gone through numerous titles for me because we're not really sure what to call me. I do a little bit of everything. I'm the assistant to the executive director. I also do a lot of the work for the workshops here. I'm the one who makes sure that we have all our hosts and our panelists are all lined up and have all the information that they need. And manage the calendar. I manage a lot of travel arrangements. I'm managing a lot of the website and social media things, or at least the creating of some of it. Some of that goes to our social media director. So there's a lot. I kind of pick up all the little pieces that aren't being done by everybody else, so that don't fit neatly into a box. So, and I used to work at a parish. So I used to be a stewardship coordinator, outreach coordinator, and pastoral care coordinator at one point, all three at once, but mostly two at a time at some point. So, so I have some familiarity with the parish level also. And that actually brings me, I was going to ask a question of Michael, because I think a lot of people, when they think administrator, the first thought they have, especially in relation to a church, is parish administrator. And so, Michael, are there any like common misconceptions from parishioners about what you do? Do you get questions about something and you go, that's not me, that's for the rector, or why are you asking the rector? That's for me. Like what types of roadblocks and hurdles do you sometimes come across that you wish everybody would have some clarity on for you?
Oh, yes, that happens all the time, actually. And so the way we're set up, and I think it's probably not that way everywhere, but obviously we have our own, financial staff because we're a larger parish, so we can, we have more staff. We have our own. We have a subgroup that deals primarily with worship, coordinating all of the volunteers, that sort of thing. And the common misconception I think that most parishioners have is that the administrator knows everything about everything. And while I do know a lot of things, there are certain things, aspects of the financial side and the buildings and grounds side that I'm not that familiar with. And usually the way I handle that is I just point them in the right direction.
Mhm.
So that's, yeah, the most common misconception that I have found as an administrator is that I know everything.
Right. So if I was coming to your parish, are you the person, if I want to join, do I come talk to you? Who do I talk to?
So in our parish, we have, obviously we have the ushers and we have people that are part of the welcoming committee. So their primary responsibility is to identify new faces and, engage them in conversations and see what their levels of interests are. And then at some point, they will direct them towards me to get into the more nitty gritty, like, let us have your email address. Would you like to be on our parish mailing list? That sort of thing.
Right. Okay. And how much communication do you have with your local diocese? I think a lot of people, it gets confusing when you go from, a parish to a diocese, you go from a diocese to the national church, or you move towards, seminary or what have you. So what kind of communication are you having at the diocesan level? And how frequently are you working with the diocese towards the common goal, or are you focused mostly on your parish?
So we actually have a split in responsibilities. I what I call her our director of communications.
Okay.
She is primarily responsible for our bulletin creation, social media, all that sort of thing. And she is actually the person that would most interact with the diocese on a communications level. I do a lot of as one of the cardinal parishes within our diocese, we do a lot of hosting. We are the primary space for the clergy renewal of vows. So I do a lot of the coordinating with my diocesan level counterpart on that level, but communications is primarily handled by my coworker.
Okay. Very good. And then Haley, from the diocesan side, how often are you communicating with the parishes in your diocese? And is that a primary responsibility of yours? Like how is that relationship handled, and how much of your missions are connected and how much of your missions are, yes, there's the diocese, but each parish kind of has their own mission and the diocese is just that umbrella under which they're functioning?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say I communicate with our parishes in some form or fashion daily. That is a really common part of my responsibilities. Oftentimes it's directly with the clergy, but we also reach out to, and I say we because I'm really lucky to work with 4 other bishops' assistants within my own diocese, and we're often collaborating with one another as well. Um, and so often are asking our parish administrators to assist us with things like data in gathering and helping get word out about different events and stuff. We have some great diocesan newsletters that help us do that work. But often when we're working on specific events, it can be really helpful to kind of target the folks who, we know are connected and are kind of seeing things coming and going and all that good stuff. So yeah, our parish admins and the clergy at the parishes and formation ministers and all kinds of folks are people that we interact with all the time. I think the other part of your question had to do with kind of how often is that about diocesan mission versus parish mission and how much that overlaps. And I think that varies a lot across the church. It varies a lot across the type of programming that we're working on. I think we really see our mission, or I really see our mission here in this diocese as providing resources, programming information that helps the churches live out their missions. And so we're kind of in a resourcing and a support capacity that often means things like leading programming. Like one of the ones that's in my office, I mentioned the curate cohort before, but we also do something we call Discovery Weekend. That is like the vocational discernment weekend retreat for folks. And so that's something that the diocese organizes funds executes for folks within the diocese. But we also have, like our new formation minister has a microgrants program, and that allows us on my team to help support folks who are imagining what that looks like in their own communities.
Nice, thank you. So we also have, obviously, Leslie's here from Seminary. Meg is here from a nonprofit organization that works very closely with the church, but isn't technically under the umbrella of the church, much like EPN is here. So Meg and Lesley, I'm going to ask both of you. We can just, I'll just, whichever of you wants to go first. Since we're on the topic of kind of communication, it sounds like a lot of what Michael was talking about, what Haley was talking about is there's a lot of communication involved in all of your work. What type of communication do you have with the seminary and EPF, where with the church in general? And a lot of people, I think, Lesley, would think, oh, it's the seminary, so you have a lot of communication early, right, when people are getting their training and then becoming rectors and then moving on. But what type of relationship do you have with the church once the rectors are kind of out in the field and doing their work? And what type of support do you have, and how do you share that information? Is there like a continuing education for rectors that you all provide, and for the lay people who work within, because not everybody who goes to seminary becomes a rector. So what type of support do you have for people once they've entered that field? And then Meg, I'll ask you kind of, because I know you all do that too.
Yeah, so I'm hearing some expansion on communication and what it looks like once our both lay and ordained graduates are placed, right? Okay, so external communications is one of the largest parts of my job in the top office. There aren't a lot of people here at the seminary that externally relate out, institutional advancement, obviously, or advancement communications. They definitely do, 90% external. But the president is a fundraiser, so we do a lot of external relations, which is funny. I'm seeing this list of folks putting in the chat their names and titles, and I've just recognized almost everybody because I've had to reach out to so many different offices across the country, specifically with the ordination track graduates and what they're up to. So I've worked really hard to develop trusting relationships with other executive assistants and chiefs and canons across the church to make sure that when they see my name in their email, that they know that a warm email is behind it, right? That they know me, they can recognize my name, and that's really important to me. So for me, that's kind of what that looks like, and it's again an extension or a representation of the president. I think I'm getting specific enough with these answers. We also have a yearly lecture in November called the Blandy Lectures. And that's our alumni convocation. So that's been really great. Every year it's getting bigger and bigger, and we're having more and more alums come back. A big part of our student body are counselors for the state of Texas in training. And so we're working intentionally on how to shape communications after seminary for those counselors and staying in touch with them and finding out more about their careers. That is aside from the Episcopal Church, but they do get their degree here at Seminary of the Southwest, which is really important because they know they could become they could get a Master's of Arts in Counseling anywhere, but they really appreciate and respect our mission, and they want to be a part of it. So, yeah.
Okay. And Meg, I know you all have the PEP conference. So what is that, and how do you get the word out to, and who do you get the word out to? Are you just focusing on parishes? Do you go beyond the Episcopal Church? How does that work?
So, as you've mentioned, Laura, we do have, it's the PEP conference, nicknamed as the Preaching Excellence Program. So it usually starts with the seminary level. Like that's how I met Lesley. Lesley and I worked together for about 7 years. We reached out to the deans and everyone and the homiletic professors from every seminary saying, please choose your best promising preachers to go away on this wonderful retreat. To hone and to learn more about how they can become preachers and everything else too. And then it's my job as well to follow up with them as well too, to say, hey, how are you doing afterwards? Like certain lectures they love, certain workshops they love as well too. So we keep in touch with them via like the newsletter. And we also have other programs as well too, like the lay preaching program. So we teach, so we go across the country and we even have one in Europe, like I said, that trains lay preachers. So in other words, ordinary individual people like us who just wants to preach about the word. We have that program. Plus, we also do the Sermon Roundtable, which is again rectors or lay preachers or deacons who is like, I want to know what my congregation thinks about my preaching. So they all get together, and it is my job in general to kind of be like the go-to person.
Yeah.
That's really what I like to call myself as the go-to person. Everyone has a question or something, they go to me, and either and I always say I find the answer. If I don't find the answer, I work hard on finding the answer. And it's either I have to direct you to another person or I find you the answer and saying, okay, maybe you were not the best fit, but try this program. And like I said, it's also important for me to be like what Lesley said with the diocese and everything. I'm the same way as well too, making sure that my name is very recognizable on the diocese level and the seminary level. Making sure everything we're all in communications.
Good. All right. So all of you sound very busy. Every time every time I'm hearing your answers, like there's this, and then there's like a nuance of this, and then there's a that, and there's nuance of this. And so um my question is, just working with nonprofits in general or churches specifically, I find that, you get hired, you have one job title that you get, that you're going into, and then you end up getting about 8 other jobs underneath that job title. So what do you do? And I will introduce Janessa in just a second, but what do you all do to kind of manage? What tools have you found, whether they're digital tools, a person that is a mentor to you, good old pencil and paper type tools that help you juggle the different aspects of your job? I don't know if anyone has, I can get more specific and ask very specific questions, but if anyone kind of has initial thoughts on that idea of kind of managing that constantly changing sea of responsibility.
I have a couple of thoughts.
Sure, Haley.
I think one of the biggest things is the network of support that I have. And so part of that, some of that is, the other executive assistants here in the diocese, but I also am connected to the other bishop's assistants across the whole church, which is an incredible font of support and knowledge and help. And so internally grateful for them. But, I mentioned earlier, Bishop Ryan chairs a couple of institutional boards, including Seminary of the Southwest. So developing those relationships with people like Lesley, the other executive assistants and secretaries and stuff on those boards is one of the best ways that I'm able to keep on top of all the work because like Lesley mentioned, right, like we develop those bonds, we start to trust each other, we have each other's backs, and that relational piece of the work, including with our clergy, with our parish admins, is just really indispensable.
I would like to add something as well too. So EPF technically started in 1987, and the first PEP was in 1989, I want to say. So when I joined, EPF was just one big program, the PEP, and little tiny diocesan programs here and there weekends. Now, as time progressed, we got more programs like the lay preaching and the sermon roundtable. The problem being, though, that means is we need more, there's more responsibilities. Now we need to look more professional. So they were looking at me like they said, "Hey, Meg, build a website for us." And I'm like, huh? How do I build a website? Like they do that. So I did do some things. I did reach out to some people that I know of and help me. But as the organization got bigger, I finally sat down with them and go, look, just letting you know, I'm just a little tiny admin. I didn't go to programming school. I didn't go to marketing school to become like all that stuff too. It's time for us to expand, and that's what we did in general. And I don't think if it wasn't for the fact that working within everyone as well too, and having everyone's support in general, not only like your friends and family, but as you go along, you will find that support. You will find that voice and they will direct you to the right person. And I can definitely say the Episcopal network in general, no matter what, is great for that.
Nice. Very good. All right. And real quick, Janessa, would you mind introducing yourself and your title? Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Your title, kind of a brief description of what you do, and then what are some tools that you use to kind of juggle all the different responsibilities you have?
Certainly. My name is Janessa Tomberlin. I am the part-time parish administrator at St. Albans Episcopal Church in Austin. And my responsibilities are kind of all encompassing. If people have a tech question, if they have a scheduling question, if they have a liturgical question, they generally come to me. And I've been in this role just under a year. So there's been a pretty sharp learning curve. I've held office jobs before and things like that, but it's I'm not exactly what you would call a tech savvy person, and so there's been a lot of learning and growing. But as far as tools go, I rely heavily on Google. We use Google as our like business server for emails and all of those things, but my Google Calendar is what I live by. And since I am part-time, I do have a full-time job. I have a family. I have all kinds of things happening. So if it's not on my calendar, I don't know that it exists. And it's also a great way to send reminders, and they're like Google has so like that platform is so helpful in keeping people organized, and not just yourself, but your the sphere that you're working within. And I like cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah.
And sorry I'm late. I missed the whole Eastern time thing on the on the schedule.
Yeah, I have to say on Google Calendar, that's one of the things that like I've learned to do is because our executive director travels a lot. I look to see what city he's in, and I automatically change all of his events to whatever the time is in that city. Otherwise, I will forget and I will put everything on Eastern time. So and that has not worked out well in the past. And I saw Michael nodding a lot when you mentioned Google. So Michael, is that what you all use there too?
Yeah, we use Google Workspace, and Google Calendar is probably my best friend. I've got it broken down into parish events, building use events. Obviously, I have a section for staff. I have a section for myself, and just about everything that happens in this space. Anything we do is on that calendar, and I look at it several times a day to see what's coming up next and what do I need to do, and what volunteers do I need for this, that, or the other thing. I don't know that I could do that job anywhere near what it needs to be done without Google Calendar. And it might be something, a different type of calendar for somebody else, but I think it's an essential tool for any parish administrator.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
The
Well
other thing, yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to mention that
Mm.
helps me do my job better, and I think it's very important, especially as a parish administrator, is keeping a professional and friendly relationship with all your coworkers, all of your volunteer coordinators, all of your volunteers. The more they like you, the more likely they are to do things when you ask them to.
Right.
I
Awesome.
don't want to interrupt as well too. I really don't mean to, but I also want to say, yes, I am a fan of Google Calendar, but my company switched over to Microsoft. So you guys have Google Calendar. I have Microsoft Outlook. So I use Microsoft Outlook as my thing, as the same thing as well too. So for all of you who out there are like, wait a minute, we use Outlook. I just use a pen and paper and a regular calendar. There's no there's really no one program. This is a program and that's it everyone needs to use. It's just knowing how to use the program. So like for, again, like, and it's kind of funny because Laura was with me when this happened. I actually was a Google Calendar person. Then all of a sudden our company switched right over to Outlook without my knowledge. So here I am over the weekend ticking out every book about Outlook so I can continue doing my job as well too. So just know that there are definitely a lot of calendar programs out there too. And my recommendation is just use whatever is comfortable and makes it easy for you. If it feels like you have to learn a second language, then don't go with that program. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm so sorry for interrupting, Laura.
You're fine. Yeah, and we're a Google Workspace company too, and I love it. I was a Google person before I started working here. Everything's connected. I love being able to use it. We have found one major flaw, which is if you copy and paste from a Google Doc into Gmail, they don't use the same font coding. And so all your fonts look off. So it'll look like one font and one spacing for whatever you typed in Gmail, and then it'll change even if you copy the whole, like highlight the whole thing and then try to change the font there. Whatever you pasted is going to have a completely different font and spacing, and it's so annoying. So if anyone knows the magic for how to fix that, I would appreciate it because it's driving us crazy. So, and Lesley, I was going to ask you, so are you all Google? Are you Microsoft? Are there other tools that you guys use that you find useful?
Yes, yeah. So we're a G Suite, so all of Google. There are a few people that have figured out how to use their Outlook, their Microsoft Outlook, and have it, connected to our Google system. So that's the majority of everything we do. We started using Hive under the new Dean of President's leadership, and it's just like a beehive hive word. So it's project management software, and it's probably middle of the road as far as affordability goes, but this was the rollout year, so we're all starting to get comfortable with it, and so far it's been super helpful for a lot of projects, but mostly for events that require like a whole lot of cooperation across departments. And then I was going to say, just kind of to speak to what both Meg and Haley were saying, I found that any peer connection program that I could be a part of across virtual mostly, but across like institutions, whether it be like a sister seminary or maybe even like a Presbyterian seminary, that has been like astronomical for my evolution of my role, the growth, the success of a lot of my accomplishments have been because I've found people that do the same thing that I do, and sharing on a regularly scheduled basis tips and tricks and concerns and, just ping ponging with someone that understands your role, it really goes a long way.
Yeah. Do Leslie or whoever wants to answer, for that type of support, do you find that you have to be more proactive and look for that yourself? Does your institution provide any connections or support for you that way?
Well, for me, it's probably very different from, than others, but, for me, I have a professional development, like, higher education. So like, we're all about professional development. So we're encouraged, to seek out professional development. And so, yeah, I shared with you, Laura, some, resources that are all professional development, resources. But, yeah, so I sought all these out myself, but I had the budget. So, yeah, and you can just make your own too. Like, I created one with a peer at Washburn in Topeka, Kansas, and we Zoomed once a month for 4 years. And then when I was actually in Kansas City for EPN
Okay.
last February, she drove to Kansas City and we met in person. So,
Right.
yeah, I can't talk that up enough, the peer connections.
That's great. Awesome. What about anybody else? Does your diocese, parish, organization, do they support personal development, professional development, or not that they wouldn't support it, but I guess financially support? Do they provide you those resources, or are those things you have to seek out yourself?
For me in general, but I think it's just my personality in general, I always say you can always learn something new every day. In general, and I'm the type of person where I'm constantly like, my brain is a sponge. I want to learn more. I want to learn more. And then so there are times where like I would find, hey, look, there's an advanced class about X, Y, and Z. So I will present it. And I always believe in no. The worst thing that can happen was he's just say, no, it's not in our budget. So I bring it up. I say, hey, look, do you mind if EPF will help me cover the cost to help me to do this job more efficiently, which will help EPF because of X, Y, and Z. And like I said, the worst that can happen is they just say no to me. And then so then I either save her or whatnot. One of the things I like about my job is that I'm not afraid of asking them questions. Like, I'm not afraid of hearing no. I'm in general, if that makes sense. Like I know like for example, I know that they're not gonna send me to Timbuktu if I ask them a weird question. I know they'll say no and still encourage me in a way. So if that answers your question.
Yeah. And Michael, were you going to say something too?
Yeah, our diocese is starting to get better at it. I know about a year or so ago, they started groups for what they call communicators, which my coworker belongs to. I think they sort of expect parish administrators to be part of that group. I haven't found anything that was specific for admins, so I'm still looking, but we're starting.
You know that EPN has an admin cohort, right? For parish.
They do now.
Yeah. So I will send that to you. Yeah, we have a group that meets once a month, and they get together. We have a website. This is another one of those things, and I was actually going to ask. I know Janessa had something to say, but it'll lead into my next question too, which is, like for example, with the cohorts that we have here, I said, I was getting emails all the time. Can you send me a copy of this form that so and so mentioned at this meeting on this day? And I said, well, why don't we have a library for those, just like we have for, all of our workshops? Well, guess whose job it became to create a library for all of those documents. So, Janessa, I'm going to have you, because it looked like you wanted to say something about the professional development part, but also, is there a line there when you try to mention something to be helpful to your organization And at what point do you feel like you could say, yes, I think this is a good idea, and I'm mentioning it because I think it's a good idea, but I'm not the person to do it? Or, how do you balance that? I want to help my organization, but I also have other things. I don't want to neglect parts of my job to do these other parts that may be good, but maybe they're not for me. So, Janessa, what were you going to say about the professional development? And then if you could kind of move into that, that would be great.
I was going to mention that I'm not sure, honestly, if it's the Diocese of Texas or if it's just kind of like a coalition of churches in Austin or not. But on a regular basis, the admins meet at St. David's for lunch. And it's just like a networking thing. It's very casual. You bring a sack lunch and you bring your laptop and you can network, or you can just work in a different area than you usually work. It's kind of nice just to kind of get familiar with the people around you for support. And as far as the balancing and things go, honestly, you just have to set boundaries and be honest about your limitations. Again, since I'm part-time, I have a whole other job to balance, and that can be hard because I don't want to say no. I consider my church job to be my fun job. And so like I want to do every little thing that everybody asks of me, but I can't realistically. And so just drawing healthy boundaries and saying, I want this thing to happen. I think this is a good idea for our community, for the church, for, the kids ministry, whatever it is. But I am not the person to lead it. Who can? And extending that invitation. And if nobody jumps to volunteer for that, try tapping people. Because they have a whole lot harder time saying no than they do, volunteering. So it's good. Just empower people.
Yeah, exactly. And Janessa, I know because you're part-time, this might be a weird question, but and this is for everybody, are you Episcopalian? Is this the church that you worked for and then got a job working part-time, or how did you end up in a part-time position?
So our parish only can staff a part-time position.
Okay.
And so the person that was there prior to me was also part-time, but I am Episcopalian from the cradle, and I took the position because I wanted to learn more about the administrative and kind of like business side of the church, because I'm very familiar with all of the other sides, but not that side. So, and it is the church I attend, and I know that a lot of times admins do not attend the church where they work, but I do. So,
Okay, great, thank you. So what about everybody else? Like, how do you find that balance between like you want to do, because all of us want to do very well at our jobs. We want to be good at it. We want to grow. Where do you draw that line? How do you say this is a good thing, but it's not my thing?
If I may, this one's a hard one for me because I sort of set up a model that has kind of turned on me. It's all good, but the thing that I like to do is ask myself the question, does it make sense for me to do that? Right. And as my role has evolved, that answer is usually yes. But sometimes not. So maybe I'd say like it's like 75% of the time is yes. And if it's a yes and I can't do it, my plate is too full, or it's that time of year where I just don't have time, I will draw on my help, right? The other admin support at the seminary, and everyone, we work really well together, so everyone's always willing to help. But when it comes to like a recurring task or a specific project, if it's a yes and it would make sense for this other person to do it, I have a lot of confidence in being able to like being here so long and the institutional knowledge base, looking at a task, thinking about when it falls and all the details. I know how to assign it to somebody and delegate. So that's like I said, it's a struggle for me, but I've come up with like a model to kind of guide me through it as things begin to show up or new projects are created, especially with the presidential transition. I mean, lots of new stuff has come up and changes implemented in processes and procedures. So yeah, that's my make it make sense model.
Right. I like that. It makes sense. Meg, were you gonna say something? Okay. You unmuted, so I wasn't sure. Go ahead, Haley.
Yeah, I can add to that. I think all of that totally applies in my role as well. That the thing that draws a lot of us to this type of work is that like we want to be helpful. We like want to be of service. And so having a clear understanding of what your role or your department what your supervisor's expectations are, whether that's, your rector or your bishop, executive, what have you, really helps to clarify. And then here at the diocese, we have a practice of visioning and goal setting that helps us to do that. So having kind of a strategic framework around what is it that I want to have accomplished by the end of the year, or what are the goals of the institution and how does my work fit into that, helps us to kind of do some clarifying around what's mine, what's not. And then when you do have an idea that you're excited about or something that seems like it fits, there's kind of opportunities to talk that stuff through in groups. And then, I've had times where I've said, hey, so-and-so, this thing reminded me of you, and you're like, I don't know if you might find this helpful to your work, or if, if one of the directors or one of the executives thinks it's something that is helpful to the overall mission, they may take the initiative to pass that along. But I think that is also kind of one of the things that's unique to my role, is that part of the work of a bishop's assistant is, I wouldn't call it an advisory role, but it is my responsibility to be familiar with what my bishop's goals and work in her ministry and things are, and kind of support that in a holistic kind of a way. So sometimes those are the kinds of things that I'm able to do to support things or kind of add value to her work without over functioning. But yeah, that balance between being helpful and being over functioning is really hard. I think the other thing last thing I will say that pops into my head all of a sudden is knowing what other people's responsibilities are. So you can say, oh, thank you so much for asking me that. Let me put you in touch with this person who does that. And not doing stuff, not overstepping your lane, basically. It's one of the things.
Yeah. Okay. So Haley, when you said about doing something you're excited about, how do you handle when the bishop comes to you and gives you a task that you're not excited about? How do you handle that?
I try my best to do those things with a smile.
Yeah.
And really the thing that helps me do that is taking a minute to see where it does fit into the mission and into the work. The thing about working in this seat is that it can be really rewarding on a lot of days. Like you could see things going out in the diocese and in the world. It's kind of something that I've, like helped crunch the numbers for, helped make sure we had reservations for, help, any number of million different things. And but other days it can be really heavy, and it can really weigh. Sometimes that's just because it's like tedious, and sometimes that's because there's pastoral stuff going on. And so just taking a minute to remember the mission and where it fits in helps kind of me get over that, like, I don't want to do this feeling.
Yeah. Anybody else have any tips or tricks on when you when you're given a task and you're supposed to be like, yay, and you're just not feeling the yay?
My motivation is always, I ask, when do you need it by?
There you go. You're a deadline guy. Yeah.
Knowing what date I have to have it done by gets me moving to actually getting it done, even when I don't want to.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I can be that way too. deadlines definitely motivate me, but I have to admit that sometimes that deadline is, I don't have to look at this again after XYZ date. But, and hold on, I just saw something in the chat. Where did it go? Who was that? Allison. Yeah, so Allison was commenting that she attends the church where she works, and yeah, that can definitely be difficult. I'm sure Janessa knows. Like I said, I worked for a parish, and I was there 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, but I also attended there. And I was on the vestry before I started working there. And so people were used to coming up to me and asking for this. So finally I got my days changed. So I worked Sunday through Thursday, so that, I didn't have to worry about those weird boundaries anymore. I was on Sunday. So but do all of you work in an office, or do any of you work from home? Because I know that can be a challenge too. I work from home.
I have a hybrid. I'm in the office 4 days a week, and I'm work from home 1 day a week.
Okay.
It works.
Yeah. Nice. And in the summer, I know a lot of parishes have like Fridays off in the summer, or you can work from home more often in summer. Do you all have that, or no?
No, but in the summertime when everything slows down, we're not generally here the entire day either.
Right.
Yeah, my boss is pretty good about saying, hey, you know what? It's a nice day. All of our stuff is done. Let's go home.
Right. Exactly. That sounds nice. So,
But yeah, I'm also one of those people. I worship where I worked, and we finally solved that problem by making me work on Sunday.
there you go. Yeah, that seems to be the solution for that one. So
Yeah, I don't know how anybody can keep boundaries. It's not so much you're the problem, it's that your parishioners are the problem, because they see you, they know what your job is, and they say, hey, you know what, can you answer that question for me real quick? It's a natural thing, but
yeah. Right. Exactly.
For the Episcopal Preaching Foundation as well too, I'm actually technically hybrid. So I do go in the office 1 day a week. That's when I do sit with the executive director and our bookkeeper. We kind of go over our things. But since we are like literally all over the country, like seriously, we are all over the country. We're serving all over the country. There's no way of having an office. Yeah, I do have a desk. I did decorate it with cat pictures and memes and all that stuff too. But technically it just makes more sense for me and everyone else to work remotely, which is fine. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming, Lesley, you must have an office, and I'm assuming Haley has an office. Or Haley, well, you must work some from home, because I think you're home today.
Yeah, I am. I'm similar hybrid schedule to Michael. Home 1 day a week, and then in the office the rest of the week. And with occasional exceptions, if something's like we have an important visitor at the seminary or something on a day that I normally work from home, then I go in and make sure that I'm there for hospitality and that sort of thing.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and I'm in the office 5 days a week. But lots of flexibility for like, a couple of doctor's appointments. I'm gonna be remote today, mostly in the summer.
Yeah,
like July. Yeah.
exactly. Awesome. All right. So my last question to everyone, and hopefully, don't answer if you think you're gonna get in trouble. But if you could reapply for the job that you have now, if you weren't working there, would you? And what's the biggest benefit that makes you say yes? Or what's something you would rather change that would make you then say yes? I'm trying to make this positive, but so if you didn't work in your current job, but you could apply for it now, what would make you go, yes, that job is for me? Or what's something you could currently change about your job that you would then say, yes, this is for me?
So I'll be the first on the chopping block. How about that? Okay. I am not Episcopalian. I grew up Presbyterian and Methodist. So and it's kind of funny, how I got this job is a joke. It's like a little inside job. It's like a little inside joke between my executive director and I as well too. He's like, "Oh, let's try Craigslist," and I said to my husband, "Oh, there's nothing on Craigslist," and yet here I am 7 years later. Serious job. But yes, I would. Again, when they say the blue pill, you go back in time and redo things, or the red pill, you get the $10 million. I would take the $10 million right away because I love my job in the way where I love the people I work with. I love the people that I'm networking with as well too. I love the fact that how big and friendly the Episcopal Church is and like all that stuff as well too. I actually like I said, I got married Episcopalian as well to, our former board president was my minister when we get married and everything else as well too. I really, and I'm gonna be honest as well too, like I just love working in the Episcopal network. It's compared to customer service and when you're 15 working as a cashier, the Episcopal network is so friendly, and I love the fact that how diverse it is and how it spreads love.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So Haley, I'm going to put you on the spot now. So, basically this question is, what do you love about your job? Or if you could, kind of lean into other skills or passions you have within that job, what would you like to expand your job to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, if I was interviewing for this job again, like knowing what I know now, I would absolutely still take it. There's the tedious parts. It's not, there's not every part, like I do not love rectifying credit card statements. That it's just not, it's not
Not
my
everybody.
passion project. But the parts of my work that are relational and that are, where I'm getting to kind of put parts and pieces together to make somebody's experience of something go that much more smoothly, right? Like we kind of like to joke, we call most dioceses call their annual meeting convention, we call ours council. But like I like to joke that when somebody's complaining about like the water bottles are too cold or too hot, then like we've done our job. Like if that's the thing that they're finding to complain about, that's when we know we've done a really good job because they didn't notice how much work went into all the rest of it. And I take a lot of satisfaction in that. And so I'm starting to imagine some ways that I can really grow into this position where I'm getting to do some most of this work is kind of you're not in the position of sort of being the decision maker or kind of like setting the vision, and so you're kind of doing some leadership from a second, third, fourth chair kind of a position. And so kind of leaning into some of the ways that I can gain more relationships, gain more skills to have some to be able to contribute in a little bit higher level fashion to some of those events and programming offerings that we do is kind of where I'm seeing myself growing into at the moment. So
Oh, great. How about you, Michael? I'm going to show this to all your bosses, just so you know.
That's quite all right. How do I answer that? I'm still struggling whether or not I feel that this job is for me, but I know based on my skills, especially my organizational skills, that I'm for this job.
Gotcha. I like that. That's a good way of wording it. What how could you take the two, kind of your personality and then the job, and what makes them mesh? What makes you be able to come in every day and go and get that job done? What, how do you use that organization? How do you use that in your
In my office, I don't mean to throw any of my coworkers under the bus, but I am the most organized, and I basically keep everything on track. And there's a lot of job satisfaction that comes with being able to do that, and just being able to keep everybody else focused and getting the overall job mission done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. And it's probably a very good skill for an administrator to have, right? Keeping everybody else, being that organizational center. You're the center of the wheel that's turning. So that's
right.
good.
I mean, the essential job description of a parish administrator. I mean, it's basically the church version of a corporate office manager, where your responsibility is to keep everything and everybody on track.
Yeah, exactly.
So being organized, I think, is one of the essential tools that you have to do this job and do it well.
Yeah, for sure. Very good. Lesley, how about you?
Yeah, I would absolutely take this job. I mean, I've been here for 13 years, so it's like they can't get rid of me, No, I would absolutely take this job again. Yeah, I really love the relationships that I'm building both internally and externally. Yeah, the longer my tenure, the more resourceful I feel, and the more useful I feel, and the more I, into the mission I'm living. And so I really, really love that. I'm also really getting into the fundraising. I mean, being in this office, I don't have to directly ask for money, but I like to help with the cultivation pieces and the stewardship and the hospitality. And if I could change one thing about it, it would be to have an executive assistant and a chief of staff.
There you go.
Yeah, both in one. But I still love what I do, and it's great. It would just be a little easier.
Awesome. That's great. And Janessa, last but not least.
I would definitely take the job again, but I would be honest with myself that it is far more than a 20-hour-a-week job. It's more like 30, 35. But yeah, I about a year ago I started going through the discernment process, and I find this whole experience to be just incredibly valuable. Just kind of understanding how the church functions. It's like its own little cell. It has all of its moving parts, and so the information that I get and the things I'm learning from my rector and from the other members of the staff is really, really valuable to me. So I would absolutely take the job again. I love it. So.
That's awesome. Great. All right. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate you joining us. And I know this is a lot to cover in a very short period of time. And one of the reasons we didn't delve too far into, we talked a little bit, kind of that high ground of the tools. Next month on the 18th, we'll be talking about kind of some digital tools for administrators. We'll dive a little more into the Google Suite, into Microsoft, into some project management things, into my love of digital sticky notes, everything. So yeah, so I hope all of you will join us then. Thank you all to the panel so much. You've been very helpful. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you in the future. It has been a joy to meet you. And I hope to keep working with you all. But thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. And hopefully we'll see you all next month too. Bye. Thank you.